Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on wherever you are located. My name is Jagjit Kaur, and I'm an editor for clinical medicine books at Springer Nature. A very warm welcome to all of you for joining us today for this book launch and chapter reading session for the illustrative book of Cartilage Repair, edited by Dr. Deepak Goyal, who is a consultant arthroscopy and sports knee surgeon at Soumya Arthroscopy and Sports Knee Clinic, Ahmedabad, India. He is also a visiting professor of orthopaedics at Graduate School of Biomedical and Health Sciences, Hiroshima University, Japan. Welcome, Dr. Deepak. We are also joined by the chief guests of today's session, Dr. Bruce Reider from USA and Dr. Mitsuo Ochi from Japan. Welcome, Dr. Bruce and Dr. Mitsuo Ochi. Further, I would like to welcome Dr. Elizaveta Kon from Italy and Dr. Wong from Canada, who have contributed chapters in the book. We at Springer are delighted to be the publisher of this book and to host this online book launch event today. I would now like to present a short video on Springer Nature's flexible ebook solutions that grow your organization's research objectives. Can we have the video, please, Karishma? Thanks for playing the video. I would now like to invite Dr. Deepak Goyal, who is the editor of the book, to share with us his book publishing journey, right from conceptualizing, developing, and publishing this book, and his experiences. Dr. Deepak, the virtual platform is all yours.
Thank you, Jagjit. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Deepak Goyal. Okay. I come from a small city called Ahmedabad. I have a private practice over here. And around 2 decades ago, when I decided that I want to pursue my career in cartilage and patellofemoral joint, because these two things are passions for my life, I started reaching out to various friends in my country I talked with them. I discussed various cartilage repair aspects with them. We came together and we formed Indian Cartilage Society. Gradually, I started meeting and presenting my work at Far East Asian countries, Southeast Asia, Middle East countries. And we collected more and more data of our operated patients. We decided that what is a good protocol for our patients in our country, in our scenario. And then there was a time when I had opportunity to present my work in various European countries. Not only European countries, I'm very much thankful that I had an opportunity to present my work in America, in Canada, and worldwide. I could share my knowledge and learned a lot from them. This journey of around 20 years, it was not possible without the able guidance of my dear friends or my teachers or my mentors who taught me basics of cartilage repair. This was Matt Bridberg, Lars Peterson, and Laszlo Hangodi, who taught a great deal of cartilage repair to me. As I learned from them and I shared my ideas, I came across my other friends in Asia, like Professor Mitsuo Ochi, who's a big name in Asia and world over. And we started interacting with each other. We started organizing various meetings on different platforms, and we came together. We argued lots of time. We had lots of discussions. We counter argued. We discussed various aspects of cartilage repair, but actually we bonded with each other. That was fun times which we enjoyed together, and we continue to evolve over the cartilage repair science. And finally, we decided to form an Asian Cartilage Repair Society, and that can help the people across Asia to learn about cartilage repair science. As our data grew and we had more and more opportunity, I was invited to be a visiting professor at Hiroshima University, and that was a big deal and big honor for me. As my data grew and I could share my long-term results of cartilage repair, I had opportunity to present my work on various countries in Europe and America. But more so, when I was presenting my work, I had opportunity to make friends of international repute. Many of those people were like big names to me, but they treated me like a younger brother. It was not only academic bonding which we developed with people across the world. We had fun moments, we had personal moments, we had relaxed moments. We enjoyed together, we played together. And all these people which are seen on the screen, and there are hundreds of more people, they are my lifetime treasure. These are the people, because of them, I stand here today or I sit here today. These were the people who guided me about the various aspects of cartilage repair and about various aspects of professionalism. They are like lifelong memorabilia for me. But while interacting with these guys, I realized that there are many people who still have doubt if cartilage can heal or not. Well, there are other groups of people who are using future options like 3D printing of cartilage repair. So it turned out that cartilage is a varied science amongst people. There are people who are strong believers, there are people who are optimists, and there are people who are non-believers about cartilage repair. Cartilage science is something which cannot be taught in schools. There is a big volumes of books, many volumes of books where the knowledge lies. And there are multiple journals which are being published on cartilage repair, and they have conflicting reports. Young aspiring cartilage surgeons who wants to start their practice with cartilage repair surgeries remain confused because of these conflicting reports. They are not sure which kind of technology is good for their patients, what method they should use to treat their patients. And there is a constant bombarding of different and varied literature on them. So I thought, why not write a book that is comprehensive in nature, which has basics to future. It has anatomy, histology, diagnostics, classification, biomechanics, each technique of cartilage repair surgery and future options, all compiled in one book. But if I write all these things in one book, then again, it will be like volumes of books. It won't come in one book. So then I thought, why not write an illustrative book? A book that has picture after picture of high quality images that describes the basics of cartilage science, the anatomy, histology, radiology, biomechanics, classification, and each surgical step by step, how to do the particular surgery. And each illustration accompanied by a legend which briefly describes the literature and the step which is being done in that figure. If we can do that, then probably we will have a concise summary of cartilage repair in one book. But the idea was easily conceived than implemented because it was a big challenge for me. We are serious surgeons. We cannot, we need to do our work seriously. And the biggest challenge was, I can amusingly say, all my corresponding authors and their co-authors. Because all these people, they are big names. They are hundreds of research projects, thousands of papers, and busy clinical practice. They have tens and thousands of images. But if I ask them that give me a one complete case series, starting from diagnosis, decision making, each surgical step, rehabilitation, and long-term results, it was like very difficult task because they have tens and thousands of images to scan from. But believe me, all these challenging surgeons were very kind. They came to my rescue and they worked hard for 2 years. In 2 years, some of them called their old patients for follow-up and took their MRI. Some of them created new research projects in their university and got histological sections from the cadavers or the anatomical sections from the cadavers to comply for the book. And at the end, they supplied me with over 778 high quality images. My challenge was achieved because of those images, which we could convert into 22 beautiful chapters. And all this because of these great people. I hope the illustrative book of cartilage repair will find its place in many libraries of the world. It will act as a reference guide for aspiring cartilage surgeons, and it will work as a coffee table book for established cartilage surgeons in operation theaters. I wish all the best to my authors, co-authors, and myself, and to the publisher for the success of this launch ceremony and for the performance of this book. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Deepak, for the wonderful overview about the book. Moving on, now is the time to unwrap the book and present it to all the audience. For the book launch ceremony, I would like to invite our chief guest, Dr. Bruce, and the book editor, Dr. Deepak, to formally launch the illustrative book of cartilage repair. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bruce and Dr. Deepak, for unveiling the book, and many congratulations to you. To know more about the book and to get access to electronic or print version of the book, please visit the links that I'll be pasting in the chat box. Towards the end of the event, you will also get the details about the discount that you can avail on the purchase of the copy, so stay tuned. Also, you can post all your questions in the chat box, and the speakers will be then taking up the questions during the question and answer round. So now I am pleased to invite our distinguished chief guest of today's session, Dr. Bruce Reider, who is Professor of Orthopedic Surgery Emeritus, University of Chicago, USA, for sharing his views. Dr. Bruce, please.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Greetings to my friends in India and around the world from Chicago on the shores of beautiful Lake Michigan. In the Northern Hemisphere, we're entering winter, a challenging season of cold and snow for many of us. We bundle up for protection from the harsh elements, and we soldier on. Just when it seems as if winter will never end, we see snowdrops emerge, tiny white flowers poking their heads through the snow cover, a sign of hope to tell us that spring is on the way. In the world at large, it may seem as if we've been enduring a grim and relentless winter all year. We've been in the ruthless grip of a deadly virus. Yet hope is emerging, driven by human creativity. This book, whose launch we are celebrating today, is a sign of that creativity. Cartilage injury was long considered an almost hopeless affliction, but that has not stopped contemporary scientists and clinicians from working to reverse it. The title of the book itself, The Illustrative Book of Cartilage Repair, reflects hope for a solution. Repair is the key word here. No, the problem is not completely solved, but just as many different strategies are being pursued to conquer COVID-19, many different strategies are also being pursued to repair the seemingly unrepairable damage to articular cartilage. This book illustrates the hard work and creativity of many researchers and clinicians. In this one volume, Dr. Deepak Goyal and colleagues offer the clinical specialists all the information needed to understand the nature of cartilage lesions, historical and contemporary approaches to their treatment, and a peek into what the future might hold. Dr. Goyal has assembled an outstanding group of experts in the field to provide the reader with the most authoritative information available on each relevant topic. The hallmark of this book is the exhaustive collection of illustrations that augment the text and thoroughly clarify each teaching point. Arthroscopic and gross photographs, photomicrographs, computed tomograms, magnetic resonance images, and original artwork all do their part to bring the text to life. The Illustrative Book of Cartilage Repair provides every reader, from novice to expert, with the knowledge needed to navigate this dynamic medical field. Congratulations to Dr. Goyal and his colleagues for producing such a valuable and comprehensive volume.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bruce. It was lovely to hear from you. I would now like to invite another chief guest of today's event, Dr. Mitsuo Ochi, who is President, Hiroshima University, Japan. So now we'll hear from Dr. Ochi.
My name is Mitsuo Ochi, President of Hiroshima University in Japan. First of all, congratulations on the launching of the illustration book of cartilage repair, edited by Dr. Goyal. As we know, Hunter's observation in 1743 that cartilage once destroyed is not repaired had a great impact on the attempt of cartilage repair for almost 250 years. In 1994, a milestone paper published by Mats Brittberg and Lars Peterson came up with a new treatment procedure for cartilage repair. Based on their techniques, in 1996, we started to perform implantation of autologous chondrocyte cultured in three-dimensional atterocollagen gel into a cartilage defect site, and reported the early result in 2001 and 2002. This procedure has been covered by the Japanese National Health Insurance since 2013, and up to now, more than 1,000 patients with a cartilage defect have been treated. Since Hunter's days, about 250 years ago, when once destroyed is not repaired, was the norm, many surgical treatments such as drilling and mosaic plasty, as well as regenerative therapy or cell therapy using different types of oat or allogenic stem cells and iPS cells have been developed and are now available. and such efforts are still being made so as to achieve more optimal clinical outcomes in cartilage repair. This book has comprehensively outlined the chronological development of surgical procedures for the cartilage repair. The editor of this book, Dr. Goyal, has had several appointments at domestic and international associations such as ICRS, ACRS, and ESCA in the past. Currently, he is serving as president of Asian Cartilage Repair Society. Up to now, throughout his academic life, Dr. Goyal has been passionately pursuing clinical practices and his research in the field of cartilage repair. My first encounter with Dr. Goyal goes back to an international conference held in September 2005 when I was invited to a deliver lecture presentation in Budapest in Hungary. At that time, Dr. Goyal was training under Professor Dr. Berkesh Istvan. Since then, more than 15 years have passed, and his passion for cartilage repair has not shown any sign of cooling down. I'm sure that the illustrative book of cartilage repair will contribute significantly to the continued evolution of cartilage repair procedures in orthopedics. For that, I'm very grateful to Dr. Goyal for having successfully compiled this book while securing many world-famous talented authors for their excellent contributions. Once again, congratulations to the editor and the authors on this splendid accomplishment.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ochi, for this wonderful message. Moving on, the next part of the event is the chapter reading sessions by some of the contributing authors of the book. For the first chapter reading session, I would like to invite Dr. Elizaveta Kon, who is Associate Professor, Department of Biomedical Sciences, Humanitas University, Milan, Italy. Dr. Elizaveta.
Good day, good morning, and good evening to everybody. It's very nice to be here, and it's really something very, very nice that Deepak Goyal have been able to create it, because he really invested huge amount of work. He was chasing us, he was asking us better things, and it was really, really challenging to work on this book with him, but it was really a big satisfaction. I was asked to make a chapter reading session, so our chapter is related to the use of osteochondral scaffolds. So, okay. And the use of multi-layer single-stage cartilage repair in osteochondral lesion. So I want to illustrate use only a small part of this chapter, which is related to the myroregion scaffold, which is starts like myroregion simply. Now it's called prime, and it's a biomimetic scaffold composed by the collagen and the hydroxyapatite nanoparticles enucleated on the collagen fibers. And it composed on the 3 layers. The first layer is pure cartilage layer, mimicking the cartilage level. Then you have a collagen merged with hydroxyapatite, collagen hydroxyapatite on 40%, and then the deeper level in more bony level, which is mimics subchondral bone, it with more concentration of hydroxyapatite. This is one of the cell-free scaffolds, so the scaffold would not been aided by chondrocytes or by any bioactive agents, because just the scaffold represents the so-called smart generation of the scaffolds who are able to induce autologous cells coming from subchondral bone or from surrounding cartilage to differentiate in bone and cartilage and to heal the defect, at least in younger patients. So as I said, we started a lot of years ago because we were we were started with the experimentation, animal experimentation of this scaffold. We were involved from the first steps, and it started with prime, what is called now prime, which is 3-layer scaffold. Now we have also the version for less deep lesion, and also the chondro version, which is a version only for chondral lesion, which represents only the small lesion of the bone, so the hydroxyapatite intercalated on the collagen. So what is the lesion and what is the ideal patients? For sure, this scaffold have been created for big osteochondral lesion. I will not go deep inside the results. We can read everything in the chapter. And the use of this scaffold is extremely easy, and surgical technique is an extremely easy. You use it in from grade 4 to the osteochondral lesion. Here you can see the lesion on the trochlear, which involves a little bit the subchondral ball. It's not osteochondral lesion, it's grade 4. And you don't need a lot of instruments. Now we have a new surgical instrumentation which was created for the myo region, but you can use it also with very basic instrumentation, just involving scissors, osteomes, and not a lot of else. So it's really very, very easy technique. So this has been selected as an ideal case, rather young patients with a big lesion on the trochlear, active lifestyle, rather slim patient. Very important is the normal biomechanics, because if you need to add additionals, you can add additional surgery like patellar realignment, you can add osteotomies, you can add meniscal repair. So you can add all the other surgery which is necessary to restore biomechanics. In this case, it was not necessary because patellar mechanics was okay. And the person was very painful, as you can see from his scores, and not able to do a lot. And so you see also the preoperative image. So this is just surgical technique. You can see the preparation of the lesion. The scaffold is 6-7 millimeters deep, so you have to achieve the depth. Very important that the scaffold stays on the level of cartilage and not over the level of cartilage. And it's prepared very simply with very simple instruments, as I said. And then the scaffold is cutted with scalpel and with scissor, molded to the lesion, and then they're fixed with a fibrin glue. Then you have to test with the flexion extension cycles to test the scaffold. This is the same patient. You can see the clinical results on 2 years. The clinical scores come up to 93 and up to 100. And you see here, you still see the scaffold, and you can go. You see a good restoration of the cartilage. You see the bony level, which is remodeling. So you still see the remodeling because the bone is rather long in this type of proceeding. But you have a really nice evaluation also according to the Mokert score. And looking on the patient on 5 years of follow-up, we see good remodel. You still see some signs in the bone, but you really have very, very good clinical evaluation even up to 5 years of follow-up. So summing up, it's sometimes this if you have an ideal patient, this is a very good choice. You have very precise surgical technique. You have a tailor-made rehabilitation protocols for this technique, and so this scaffold is a rather good scaffold for the treatment of osteochondral knee defects. So this is a small part of our chapter. I invite you really strongly to buy this book, at least a part of this book, an electronic version, because it's really a big work and it really tells you a lot and more or less everything you have to know from the cartilage repair. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Elizaveta, for a nice overview of your chapter. Next, I would like to invite the book editor, Dr. Deepak Goyal, for his chapter reading session. Dr. Deepak, please go ahead.
Hello again. So, okay. Is my screen on? my screen visible? Yes. Okay. So again, thank you very much, and I will be reading the chapter 15 from the book, the illustrative book of cartilage repair. And as you can see, the title of this chapter is the illustrative third generation ACI for cartilage repair, the gel-based technique. As you scroll through the pages, you will find that after the brief introduction, we are talking about the ideal indication to do gel-based ACI, the instruments required, how to assess the cartilage lesion on arthroscopy, how to take cartilage biopsy, what happens in the lab cartilage laboratory, how you send it and how you receive it back, what is the surgical approach to do gel-based ACI, what are the steps to do gel-based ACI, what is the rehabilitation, long-term results, and at the end, the chapter talks about briefly about the review of literature. So I'll speak some illustrations with you. She's a female, 37-year-old with 3 years of symptomatic anterior knee pain, not responding to any of the conservative trial. She doesn't have any history of trauma or jerk or injury. And on clinical examination, she has got tenderness on lateral patellar facet with some mild parapatellar tenderness and mild synovitis. She doesn't have anything else. Radiologically, she does have grade D trochlear dysplasia, but on MRI, if you can see, there is echogenicity on the cartilage, the patella. There is fluid interface in between, and the loose piece of cartilage is hanging. There is also a loose piece which is seen over here. And if you look at the actual images, there is some subchondral edema indicating the chronicity of the lesion. And the findings of sagittal images are also seen on actual images. The figure 2 says the instruments that are required, and can confidently say that no special instruments are required for this technique. All the basic instruments which any arthroscopy surgeon would do in this case, a couple of ring curettes, couple of respiratomes, a measuring scale is enough. There is a harvester which is provided by the company, and any harvester which is provided by any respective company is good enough. So what is the first step is first stage of ACI, and this is view from the anterolateral portal when I'm seeing the lateral patellar cartilage facet. There is a big lesion starting from apex of patella till the lateral patellar border. On probing, the defect was bone deep, and I could pass my probe underneath the cartilage, between the cartilage and the subchondral bone, so that where the fluid interface was there. Of course, that is not seen on this image, but it was possible to raise the whole flap, and which confirmed our findings that she is a symptomatic female, young female, large cartilage lesion, and it's a pure chondral lesion. So all those 4 conditions are a good indication for ACI, and we decided to go ahead to take the cartilage biopsy. The company which works in India provides a cartilage harvester, which is hexagonal in shape, and this is impacted on the lateral border of trochlea till the mark which is seen on the top of the image. And as you go in, it will take the biopsy of all the layers of cartilage and some part of the bone. And this biopsy is sent to the cartilage lab, where it goes mechanical mincing and enzymatic digestion, cell isolation, cell expansion, and culture of the cells. The details of this process is in chapter number 19. So if you have, I encourage you to read the whole book. And in chapter 19, you will have more detail about what happens in cartilage lab. But in this chapter, we are talking about what happens at 4 weeks. 4 weeks, you receive a call from cartilage lab, and they will give you a date when the implant is ready. And the implant arrives on the day of surgery with a cold chain maintained, and there will be a little gadget inside that will be showing you the sequence of the temperature inside the box. A lab technician is accompanied by the box, with the box, and he prepares the ACI implant. So in one syringe, there is live autologous chondrocyte cells along with thrombin, and in another syringe, there is fibrinogen. So how you do it? It's a medial parapatellar arthrotomy, and you remove all the synovial folds so that patella is exposed. You assess the cartilage lesion using the probe, In this, you see a small lesion, but actually at the apex of the patella, it's the whole flap which is getting separated. You use 11 number 5 knife to sharply cut the cartilage and demarcate the healthy area from the unhealthy area. You keep your device at, or your cutting instruments at 45-degree angle, so it goes in a bevel direction. That means the base of the lesion should be broader and the top of the lesion should be narrower. That will help in containment of the graft somewhat. And finally, you prepare the lesion. 2-3 puncture holes in the bone is advisable to increase the anchoring of the graft, but that should not be punctured throughout the bone to the subchondral bone. Otherwise, the technique will become a marrow stimulation procedure. So finally, technician provides you with the ACI implant. And as you pour drop of ACI implant, a drop by drop implantation of the graft forms layer over layer. And ultimately, it leads to 3-dimensional laying of the ACI implant, where the autologous chondrocytes are distributed in a 3-dimensional pattern. Finally, you have a final look, and you should make sure that there are no bubbles, no empty pockets. It is uniformly distributed throughout the defect. And I also like to take a silhouette view. From the silhouette view, you can see the evenness of the surface of the graft. I like to keep it a little bit proud, say 0.5 millimeter, because fibrin has a tendency to contract. And this is rehabilitation. In particular cases, I allow weight bearing from day 1. Range of movement is allowed 30-degree increments every week. And I'm a strong recommender of CPM machine. Details can be found in the chapter. And this is long-term results. At 6.5 years, the lady came back to me. She had been pain-free for 6.5 years. There is no symptoms, no tenderness. Clinical examination was normal, and she's back to her hobby of dancing. She's an Indian classical dancer. And if you can see on MRI, there is a smooth cartilage surface, good border integration, homogeneous distribution of the chondral tissues, and normal subchondral bone. There is no bone marrow edema in the subchondral bone. And the axial findings are also reflected in the sagittal findings. So this is the chapter which talks about step-by-step technique of gel-based ACI. And at the end, it gives a brief ACI. It has advantage that it allows 3-dimensional distribution of the cells. So it's not like a monolayer, which was there in first stage ACI or second generation ACI or with Massey technique. It allows 3-dimensional distribution of the cells. Because it is gel form, the second advantage is that it takes any shape. So you don't need to prepare a square or circular lesion. Any irregular shape lesion is also good enough because gel will flow in all the corners. And the third advantage is that it has a sticking property because of fibrin glue. So you don't need to put a membrane or you don't have to suture anything. Just keep it there for 8 minutes and it is done. So this is the brief introduction of the chapter. When you go through this chapter, you will find more tips and tricks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Deepak, for sharing some highlights of your chapter. For the last chapter reading session, I would like to invite Dr. Yvonne Wong, who is Associate Professor, Division of Orthopaedic Surgery, Dalhousie University, Canada. Dr. Yvonne, over to you now.
Thank you very much. Hopefully you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. So my name is Dr. Wong. I'm from Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada at Dalhousie University. So we'll read through some of the illustrations, at least the pictures of the patient to give you an idea of what goes on in this book. Congratulations to Dr. Goyal for putting this together. It's a wonderful feat to be able to do. We'll go over a single stage cartilage repair technique with a chitosan-based scaffold. So Dr. Avkati was one of my best fellows and is currently working in Yashoda Hospitals in Haberdan, India. This patient is a 33-year-old female, presented with clicking and pain in her knee for a year. She had no history of trauma to her knee. Clinically, her knee was good except for medial joint line tenderness. Clinical exam radiographs show good alignment of the lower extremities, and you can see the images here of AP weight-bearing knee and showing an osteochondral defect in the lateral part of the medial femoral condyle. An MRI below that shows a stable osteochondral defect of the medial femoral condyle, and MRIs with the red arrows there outline the osteochondral defect measuring 2 by 2 by 1 centimeter on that medial femoral condyle. This next figure here shows a single stage cartilage repair technique using the different instruments. And these instruments are typically used for BST Cargel. It's a variety of curettes with different sizes and microfracture instruments, including a Phoenix microfracture guide and drill for this case that we're going to demonstrate. The instruments are particularly helpful in avoiding skiving of the awl to achieve maximal depth of microfracture. Other instruments that we typically use for an arthroscopic technique is graspers, neuropatties for drying the lesion, and spinal needles for delivery of this Cargel implant. In figure 16.2.3, you can see a view from the anterolateral portal with a probe in the anteromedial portal. The arrows outline the edge of the OCD lesion on the medial femoral condyle. The osteochondral defect was found to be unstable with a probe and was removed with a grasper through the medial portal. Measuring this probe, we found it to be 20 by 20 as the MRI did. So BST Cargel is indicated for osteochondral involvement as it can enhance the lesion filling, and we have that in the rest of the chapter. So our decision was to move forward with that single stage repair with microfracture technique and augmentation with bone marrow stimulation and cut-as-in-base bioscaffold. Figure 4 there, views from the anterolateral portal, lesions debrided to remove that chondral flakes with the arthroscopic shaver. And here we move towards viewing from the anterolateral portal with a curette in the anteromedial portal. The lateral wall of the lesion was able to be debrided with the vertical walls. The scope was then be able to switch to the medial portal, and the medial wall of the lesion was able to be debrided with the curette through the anterolateral portal. So any of the calcific tissue was removed from the base to make the final preparation, as you can see. In figure 6, we're using the Phoenix microfracture system. This was used from the right side of the medial femoral condyle, and this angled drill guide was able to be positioned so it's perpendicular to the subchondral bone to achieve optimal results. We can view this from multiple portals, and that allows us to make sure that we've completed microfracture in all the areas that we want to have marrow stimulation. The preparation for the defect of the BST Cargel implantation requires a clearing of the joint of all irrigation fluid. It has to be nice and dry arthroscopically. So with the scope in the anterolateral portal, we can take the fluid out using suction that's attached to the shaver, as well as through a spinal needle. All the residual fluid is cleared with a swab and the defects dried for the implantation. These are the steps of the implantation. We use a mixed vial and an add vial, warmed to 37 degrees, that's physiological temperature, shaken, and then passed into the sterile field with a scrub nurse as well as the operating surgeon. And with the lesion dried, we're now able to view this from the anterolateral portal. Using a 23-gauge spinal needle, we can inject it into the lesion in a dropwise fashion. And this is able to cover the entire defect in the three-dimensional geometry. Because it was mixed with blood, it allows it to clot and have some kind of three-dimensional shape and structure. So the portals can then be closed and the knee can be immobilized in extension for 24 hours. An offloader hinge knee brace is applied after the procedure. This allows us to move it after 24 hours and can have partial weight bearing for the next 6 weeks, progressively increasing to full weight bearing by the 9th week. Here's a 1.5 year MRI review of this patient. You can see cartilage is covering over the initial defect. We have some fill of that defect in the MRI. We also can see that there's no gap in the defect. Darker region adjacent to this was subchondroplasty from the bone marrow edema that was seen during the initial MRI. Below that, we have a longer-term outcome of MRI with this BST cartilage repair technique from a different case. You can see a second look that was done 22 months after index operation, showing healing through the entire defect and regeneration of the cartilage that's looking similar to the native cartilage. Again, congratulations to Dr. Goyal for his work in his book, and thank you very much for inviting me for this book launch.
Thank you, Dr. Ivan, for that wonderful presentation and for sharing some information about your chapter. Thank you to all the speakers for their presentations. Now it's time for the Q&A session. I would now request you, Dr. Deepak, to take up the questions from the chat box if we have received the questions from the audiences and answer them.
Thank you very much. If I have made everyone can speak now, so from the attendees, if there are any questions, we will take. If you want to ask about the book, about the flow of the book, about various chapters, about our today's presentation, or if you want to give some feedback, if you have already seen the book or read the book, please ask us.
We request all our audience to please use the questions box to key in any questions or suggestions or feedback that you may want to share with our panel.
Attendees have to unmute their device, otherwise we won't be able to hear them if somebody wants to ask a question. In that case, Professor Bruce, would you like to give some comments after you have seen 3 chapters?
Thank you, Dr. Deepak. I think what we've seen here is just a taste of what's available in this book. And what you can see is that there are several different approaches that can be very successful for cartilage repair. You've just seen 3 of them, and each one was a little bit different. Dr. Deepak's used a cell-based ACI technique. Dr. Wong's used an enhanced microfracture technique. And Dr. Kon's used a multi-layer implant to encourage cartilage regrowth. As I said in my introduction, I think this is a very exciting time in the field of cartilage repair because we have a number of options, and we will continue to investigate and find out which options are best for which situations.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you for encouraging word, because your guidance is always very important. You always give tips which are, people like me have to read in between the lines and later, understand in detail, because your small tip is actually a big knowledge book, and it always helps us. So thank you. I hope other attendees will also take a clue out of that. There is a question from Manish Singh. Manish, can you ask your question?
Sir, good evening.
Good evening, Manish.
Sir, first of all, congratulations on your book. I haven't read it. Definitely I'm going to read it. But I think you must have included all the chapter in the knee, or you have included other joints also.
Basically, this book doesn't reflect only one joint, but for the ease of understanding, we have put all the chapters, we have demonstrated all the chapters in the knee, but each chapter is equally reproducible in any other joint also.
Okay,
but
sir. Thank you, sir.
To maintain the flow, we have kept it for the knee.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I can see that there is a congratulation remarks from Roland Jacob. He is founder, president of International Cartilage Repair Society. If I can, and yes, he's already unmuted. Roland, will you like to say a word for us? Hello? I think he's not able to hear us. Roland, are you there? Okay, so I think there is some connective issue with that. There is Dr. Naren Agrawal. He wants to ask a question. Naren, can you ask your question? Hello? Naren? I think he's not able to speak, but I will read his question. His question is, hello, Dr. Deepak. I'm Dr. Naren. I work with Jagjit. Do you think videos on procedure covered in this book will help as learning material for surgeons in the field? Yes, definitely. Videos are something which give you more real-time idea about a surgical procedure, and that gives us more visualization of the surgical field. But videos cannot be put in a printed book. But there are many platforms available through various professional societies, and there are very new journals which are coming up, like Video Journal of Orthopaedics from AOSSM under Bruce Reider. And very soon, I think there will be lots of videos which. Okay. So there are various journals like Video Journal of Orthopaedics and other journals where you can see the live videos of operating procedures that can give you more real-time assessment of a surgical procedure. So yes, we agree that videos are much more better than the stills. Okay, so there is a message from Professor Rowley. He's unmuted. Can the organizers unmute him? It's Roland Jacob.
So we've done that. However, it seems there's some connectivity issue from his end.
Okay. So I think Roland Jacob, Professor, you have to unmute from your screen. From our side, you are already unmuted. Meanwhile, there is a question from Daniel Grant. He's a big name and he has produced a chapter in this book on 3D bioprinting of cartilage. And he has asked, do you think that allogenic ACI will be available in the future? And will it make it more readily available clinically? I think Elizaveta Kon is the best person to answer that. Lisa, can you answer this question? Hello? Yeah, Lisa, can you answer this? You are unmute. Please unmute yourself.
Now it's okay?
Yes, okay.
It was difficult to. So the question was about the bioprinting of cartilage if it's close to the.
No. His question is, do you think that allogenic ACI will be available in the future?
Allogenic ACI. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I stopped on bioprinting of Dan Grande. No, it's allogenic ICI. I think allogenic cells are definitely the future because it will reduce the possibility of it will reduce all the risks to the patients and necessity to harvest the cartilage and necessity of two operation. So I'm more believer on allogenic stem cells than on allogenic chondrocytes. But I think also allogenic chondrocytes, it have been several techniques with allogenic chondrocytes and already published and already experimented. So it's I think it's really safe and really can be done easily. But I think the future is even more than allogenic stem cells because allogenic stem cells have been proved to be immunoprivileged. So in this case, we really have a possibility to try to treat not only cartilage defects, but start thinking about the joint environment changing and the treatment of osteoarthritis, so which is another big chapter. So I'm very, very positive on the use of allogenic tissues. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Lisa. So there is one congratulations message from Naved Ahmed. He's from India. There is another congratulations message from Narendra Dasraju, and he has asked, is there any CD along with the book for procedure videos? Unfortunately not. This is an illustrative book and not the video book. So there is no CD along with that. But I will briefly roll out the book in front of you in next few minutes. And you can see that the flow of pictures is just great to have a good perception of different techniques. Roland, now I think your mic is on. Can you ask your question or can you give your opinion?
Deepak, can I add one thing about videos?
Yes.
Deepak. Yeah, because we have done a book with the videos, which was not a printed book a lot of time ago, but now we are becoming more and more digital. But I'm seeing that understand that if I'm looking on the cooking book, a lot of time I prefer to have pictures and explanation and not the video. All the time I'm looking for receipts, for example, even to cook, some dish. I prefer not a video version, but I prefer the version you choose for your book. So the illustration and the explanation, because you can switch when you can come back and you come in. Video is more difficult. So video, it's really something very, visible and very nice, but sometimes you really need something else, which is even better than video, for my opinion. For surgical techniques is the same thing.
Yeah, thanks. It is another perspective of how you look at it. And I think you are right. In some of the times, the newspapers are always great. In the morning, you like to read a newspaper and not go to the television and watch the news live. So both have different aspects. And so this is the illustrative book, which has its own value. I have one more question from Ram Kumar Pandey, and he's asked, do we have any chapters dedicated to bone marrow injections? So yes, we have chapter on BMAC, which is written by Professor Alberto Gobi, and it is a very nice chapter, very nicely described, and you should have a look at it. Finally, Roland, we are still waiting for you to join. There is one question from Dr. Tejas Patel. Hello, sir. I'm Tejas Patel. What is the basic instruments one should have in personal cartilage repair bag? That's a very broad question, Tejas. But as I showed in my technique, we need basic arthroscopy instruments for most of the cartilage repair techniques. If you need any specific instruments, mostly it is supplied by the company who is producing the implants for you. So in general, in your armamentarium, if you have a couple of curettes, couple of sharp periosteums or respiratomes, some measuring device to measure the size of the defects, some good probes, that is good enough. If you are doing microfracture, you need variety of microfracture awls. If you are doing mosaicplasty or OATS, then you need to have disposable implant kit for that. And most of the ACI procedures, you don't need any special instruments, even if you are doing first generation, second generation, or third generation ACI. So not much inventory in your private clinic stages, as far as I can understand. And next question is, what is the basic sequence in 1.5 Tesla MRI to see the cartilage? I think, Lisa, can you answer this question? Hello, Lisa?
Sorry, Deepak, I had a problem out of the line. Can you repeat the question? 1 second.
Okay. So his question is, what is the what is the basic sequence in 1.5 Tesla MRI to see the cartilage?
It's a difficult question because I really not a radiologist, so I can't answer on exactly on this question. So I address to the maybe to the radiologist or to the chapters to the book which is more dedicated to the MRI. I'm using a lot Fiesta sequences. I'm using my radiologist using a lot sequencing with fat suppression. It depends what exactly you want to see. If you want to see better the subchondral bone with fat suppression, you really see perfectly the subchondral bone. With Fiesta, you see even too much sometimes. So it's really very, very difficult, and collaboration with the radiologist, I think, is extremely important to have you explain all the time you ask for the MRI, especially evaluation of the cartilage problems. You all the time you have to explain to the radiologist what you exactly want to see, because it's really sophisticated technique. They really can do miracles. They can do really miracles if you properly address them and properly ask what you want exactly to see.
I agree. And still, I believe that if we have opportunity to get MRI on higher resolution or higher 3 Tesla MRI, that would be great. But on 1.5 Tesla, unless the radiologist is very keen on taking special sequences, in India, I've seen that most of the time it is not very good resolution which we get.
Yeah, but experienced radiologist and a good technician can show you miracles
Yes.
even on 1.5
Yes.
Tesla. You don't really need
Yes.
3 Tesla for cartilage. You need it for more sophisticated things. If you have 3 Tesla, it's nice, obviously, but it's not that much for the pictures. 3 Tesla maybe is more useful for the quantification. If you try to quantify something, you quantify your lesion, quantify protoglycan contests, quantify, bone marrow edema, whatever, probably is better having 3 Tesla. But I ensure you that I have, for example, here in Humanitas, the radiologists who are able really to show you whatever, only 1 Tesla MRI, even close to a macroscopic structure, because it's really the matter, not the matter of Tesla, but strongly the matter of technique and an experience and willing of especially of a technician, because sometimes it's the technician who have to set up the things and follow the protocols in the certain way and adapt the protocol. So it's really up to the radiologist to give you good images, and sometimes they really can show you. If you're looking on the presentation of Tratnik, of Ziggy Tratnik from Vienna, or of a Hollis Potter presentation, sometimes you are astonished. You say impossible to see all these things just with MRIs, but they're able really to show you whatever with MRI with a great resolution. So it's really, I think MRI is really the future technique, and we just quit doing any type of second look arthroscopies for cartilage repair, for example, just a lot of years ago, because we started Deepak, you remember, we was doing second look arthroscopies on 1 year, 2 years to understand how the patient feels and how the repair was. But now we are not doing it anymore, because with the MRI, you see even better and even more with what you can see on arthroscopically. So it's really very, very, very good.
Yeah, even I suppose the biopsies, the post-operative recovery biopsies has also gone down, because MRI gives us very good information about the results. So why do another surgery and again put a biopsy needle on it?
No, you don't need this or do all these invasive things anymore. MRI shows you, well done MRI shows in even too much sometimes. Sometimes you don't want something you don't want to see, and that's what, because even when you touch like this, the cartilage with the metal, it will stay there forever in the MRI. So it's really sophisticated technique, and you can do whatever you want with MRI.
At this point, I would also like to share that we did one literature analysis few years back in Indian Cartilage Society, and based on different reports and our own experience, we came to know that if surgeon is too much tempted to see post-operative MRI within 1 year, he will have a heart failure. Because if you do MRI early, it shows huge bone marrow edema, huge cartilage tissue edema, and you say, oh my God, what's happening? But if you have little patients, if you wait for a year or two and then you do MRI, then you can see a good resolution of edema and good regeneration of cartilage. So I think the one more thing is that you should not hurry up in doing post-operative MRI. Give some time to nature to show you some good results. Okay, so the next.
We published the paper about it, that you have to see some bone, especially on the subchondral bone, you need at least 5 years to see normalization of the signal in subchondral bone. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So there's one more message from Dr. Pankaj Patni. He's congratulating all of us, and he says that it seems like the book every budding surgeon should have. Of course, Pankaj, we wish that every budding and aspiring cartilage surgeon should have this book. That is the main intention, that it should act as a good reference guide to all of them. Another message from Professor Vinod Kumar. He's a big professor in Delhi, and he has written a message that congratulations for such a great work, and that's his message. There is another message on Narendra Dasraju, that is there any chapter illustrating on complications after cartilage repair? So Narendra, in each chapter, while describing the techniques, we have briefly touched the red flag, that what you should not do to avoid the complications. And in take-home message also, we have briefly described that what are the red flags we should be aware of. There is an answer from a radiologist who is one of the authors. he said that proton density images are good for cartilage imaging on 1.5 Tesla MRI resolution. So many thanks, friends, for all the responses. Last time, Roland, are you able to unmute yourself? No. So I think we end the question answer sessions here, and there is one last thing to do, the concluding remarks. Shall I do the concluding remarks?
Yes, Dr. Deepak, if there are no more questions, then we can just move ahead towards your concluding remarks.
Okay. So the concluding remarks are very little. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So my conclusion is that I want to profusely thank all my corresponding authors and their co-authors for the wonderful work they have done in last 2 years. They have tolerated me a lot. I know I had been after their skins, and almost every 10 days there will be one email from me, and you won't believe each chapter must have 20 to 25 revisions before we finally accepted the manuscript for publication. So many thanks to all of you for contributing your life's work in a concise manner with me, and I really appreciate that. I hope that this book will find its place to all the people who love cartilage repair. Just to give you a brief look of the book, as somebody was asking, if you just scroll through the various pages, which I'm showing in this video, you will find that this book is full of illustrations. All the chapters, pages after pages, are just images and legends. So it describes the anatomy, histology, radiological diagnosis, classification, biomechanics of cartilage injury, all the types of MRI diagnosis, different surgical techniques, cells, scaffolds, mosaicplasty, microfracture techniques, all the 3 types of autologous chondrocyte implantation procedure, cell-free techniques, cell-laden techniques, and also futuristic techniques, allografts, and 3D bioprinting. So this book is basically a concise collection of everything related to cartilage repair, and that you can scroll through very fast and improve your understanding about cartilage repair. There is a code which I'm very thankful to Springer, which they have provided to us. And if you use this code, you need not copy it. We will email you this code. And also, if you can download the brochure, which is seen on your screen, then on that brochure also, this code is available. It's a discount code of 20% if you purchase ebook or hard copy. And this is valid for a few more days. So I encourage you to go through the book, and your feedbacks are always very much valuable to all of us. If you give us and send us more feedbacks, it will be more encouraging for us to know that how we perform in writing this book. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Deepak, for your wonderful remarks. The last part is the vote of thanks from my side. So it was a pleasure working with you, Dr. Deepak, on this book as a publishing editor, and thank you for choosing Springer as your publishing partner. Congratulations to you and to all the contributing authors on the publication of this book and on the launch of this book, and best wishes for its success. I would like to thank our chief guests, Dr. Bruce, Dr. Mitsuo, and the other guests, Dr. Elizaveta and Dr. Ivan, for gracing this event by their presence today. I would also like to thank Dr. Naren Agarwal, who is the editorial director for Medicine and Life Sciences books, looking after the Asia region, for his guidance to plan and organizing this event, and Ms. Nidhi Gulati and Ms. Karishma Kashikar from communications team at Springer Nature for their constant support in organizing this event and for managing the platform so well. Thank you all. Thank you, everybody. A big thank you to all the attendees who have joined us today and for showing interest in the book and for asking some good questions. Thank you to all the speakers for answering the questions of the participants so well. The discount flyer is also available, as Dr. Deepak mentioned, for all the attendees to download and to use it to avail the offer within the valid period. The discount flyer will also be emailed to all the attendees. So we once again thank you for joining us today for this event, and hope you enjoyed the event. Goodbye and have a nice weekend. Stay safe. Thank you all.
My sincere thanks to Jagjit and all the Springer editorial team. 2 years you have also tolerated me a lot. You were after me and I were after you guys. But Sushil, other editorial members
From
of
the production,
Springer,
yeah.
the production managers, and from the reviewer pay teams, thank you very much to all of you for the support. And I really enjoyed working with Springer. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Deepak. Sure. We also enjoyed working with you. Thank